Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us to discuss an important subject tonight. Today, we'll be focusing on the very important nature of Allah as we understand from the Quran and the Hadith as well. The Quran, or in Islamic teaching rather, it actually does not merely assert that Allah actually exists. Rather, it makes some specific claims about who Allah is, how he acts, and whether his actions are morally coherent or otherwise. So, if those claims actually contradict one another in any sense, then the Quran's reliability as divine revelation collapses from within itself. And that is what we should be focusing on. This is because uh, the present uh, fact from within the Quran and Hadith is that there are places where Allah have a double or two portrait. And for example, as we read in chapter 14 of the Quran, verse 4 to be specific, Allah guide whom he wills and he misguide whom he wills. Did you just hear that? Allah is having a double portrait here. He is both the truth, al-haq, and he is both a liar or the untruth, which is lies. Now, how do we reconcile the opposite portrait of Allah? Remember, we are focusing on the integrity, we are talking about the nature, we are talking about the truthfulness, we are talking about what Allah can do being Allah or being God, supposedly, and what he should not be found doing being God, because there must be moral consistency in the nature of Allah. There must be truthfulness. There must be integrity. Like we see in the case of the Bible in the Christian teaching, where God will say, I am not a man that will lie, neither am I a human being that I will regret my action. And in another place, God still say in the Bible as well that take me to court, assuming we are in the court of law. Prove me wrong if I have anything done to you that is not aligned and it's not right and it's not normal, even in your own judgment. So God is challenging his critics in the Bible to prove him wrong in any sense. Should he, if he had promised them before and he failed to fulfill the promise, or something like that. So this is the character of God of the Bible: truthfulness, integrity, and kind of a reliability, and that makes him outstanding. However, in the contrary, we found out in the Quran, according to the verse we've just read, Allah chooses whom to guide right and whom to misguide or to mislead astray. And at the end, he will still judge you for whichever action you take, whether right or wrong. So, where is the moral consistency there in the character of Allah? If Allah is capable of doing either of the two, then it simply means he is not reliable enough for us to trust him given his kind of nature. And that is our fear. So, looking at that, you will now begin to compare the two gods we have in the both scriptures, from the biblical teachings of and about the nature of God, and from the Quranic teaching about the nature of Allah. So, looking at that, there are two, like I've said, two conflicting portraits of Allah, where he sometimes shows mercy and sincerely guide people, and sometimes he deliberately misguide people at his will. Allah wants people to be saved at sometimes, and another time Allah prevent them from believing. And we also see in so many places where humans are responsible for their sins because they actually committed the sin by themselves. However, and another breath of the same teaching of Islam, Allah causes blindness and causes disbelief, and therefore consequentially make people to sinful or to sin. And at the end, he still judges them. Then the question is, how can we trust this kind of natural or kind of Allah who is capable of misleading and doing so many things at the same time. Yet he claims to be merciful. He claims to be the God that should be trusted, and he claims to be wonderful in so many cases. For example, let's talk two examples. Allah as the one who prevent beliefs. So we can see, for instance, in Surah 16, verse 93, it clearly said that he misguides whom he wills and guide whom he wills. So alongside affirmation of mercy, the Quran states actively and is consistently focusing on why and where Allah himself chooses to do otherwise, about the belief, about the leadership, about what people should believe on and what they shouldn't believe on. Yet, the people are still responsible for their action. Because we can clearly see in chapter 2, verse 7 of the Quran, where Allah sealed the heart of people from believing, or prevent them from believing in him or in things that he had revealed to them. So, and we equally see in chapter 6, verse 25 of the Quran still, where it places coverers over the heart of people so that they will not understand the intention or the revelation of Allah. Now, just look at it. Let's talk about it. Look at it by yourself and analyze it. Why should such a personality, such a God, be trusted, since he have the capacity to deceive, as we see in some verses? He has the capacity to mislead, as we see. He has the capacity to stop someone from believing, seal your heart, and then he has the capacity of making others to believe, and has the capacity at the end to judge everyone for their actions, which he causes them to act. Then you are now obliged, given the fact that you have the capacity to understand good from bad, you have the right to know what is wrong and what is good, and you have the moral responsibility to decide for yourself where you will be in the thereafter. Then you are supposed to make a decision for yourself, given the nature of the kind of God that is portrayed in the Quran. And that is what we are trying to make you understand in that order. Now, so many effort has been made by the Muslim scholars attempt to reconcile the classical tafsir, or so many kind of not just conflicting but opposing and opposite kind of verses or claims in the Quran, which ordinarily should call to attention of everyone. Many Muslims try to reconcile this, but basically it cannot and it does not work, because what the Quran said, like it said, one should not add anything in it, and you should not reduce or cut out anything out of what Allah have said. And that is our focus on that. So we've talked about the fact that you need to choose for yourself the God you believe on, and the God you believe on must be morally sound, that is consistent with whatever it is morally okay by his own standard set up. And the God whom you should serve should and must be of integrity, that whatever he says, he stands by it. He cannot change it. He cannot later have a double mind or change of mind of whatever he had earlier on told us about his person or about his character. So also, the God you should serve should be a God of truth, a God that can be trusted, and a God that is reliable enough for us to continue to worship and to go with him. And that is it. So for that, I rest my case, hoping that you will analyze things for yourself. Looking at the video, you understand that you need to make a decision for yourself. Like Joshua will say, I and my family, we shall serve the Lord. So choose for yourself who you should serve. Because looking at what we have just discussed earlier on, you can see that there is a problem with the nature of Allah in the Quran, and in comparison to the nature of the God of the Bible, which is in the person of Jesus Christ. Thank you for your time, and kindly share, subscribe, and comment your view as to who would you want to worship, and allow him to remain in your life as your God. Until we meet in the next episode. Bye for now.